And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. As you guys can see, I did get a new microphone, so let's hope this actually works. If it doesn't work, it's probably going to be a short video and nobody's going to actually be able to hear me. But, anyways, earlier today, I had put out a community post and I had asked the community to ask me a question about Pokemon investing. And yeah, I did do it as a little bit of a troll because, I'm going to kind of dedicate this video to a lot of the haters because I've been harsh on Pokemon investment type videos and stuff. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just make a Pokemon investment video, but literally make it ask a geologist about Pokemon investing because the truth is, I am a geologist. I am not an investment advisor, and nobody in this YouTube space is an investment advisor, even though they will talk about investing in every single video. So I don't know. Is it a super trolly thing to do? Yes. Is that why I did it? Yes. So, oh well. But if anybody joins and in the chat, let me know how the mic sounds, if you could actually hear me, if it sounds good, or if I need to go back to what I was doing. But anyways, this is the question I put out. Ask a geologist about Pokemon investing. So I'm just gonna go in order, and then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, the last one is top 5 Pokemon investments to buy now. So we will get to that. We're gonna probably end up going through this pretty quick. So that'll be fun. But anyways, first one is from DeGreen Shiz Collectibles. Great guy. I've been on his channel. He's been on mine. I recommend you guys giving him a subscribe. But he says, if a PSA 10, BGS 10 gold label and CGC Pristine 10 first edition base Raichu were the same price, which would you pick to have? And honestly, I would pick the Raichu from BGS. That Pristine, I guess, the gold label, because really when you think about Pokemon cards, like that is going to be the card that's going to hold the highest possible value. When you think about Gary has 2 of the Pristine 10 BGS Charizards, and then Logan Paul has the 3rd one. And currently there are 0 Raichus in that Pristine 10 for first edition. So I definitely go with that. I could care less about the CGC one. And then PSA 10, obviously there's eight, I believe 87 total in the pop. So, and then next question is, as a geologist, what's your worst Pokemon investment? That's a tough one. I would say recently, my worst Pokemon investment has been sending cards to CGC. And no, this is not a hit piece on CGC. But I think that was my worst investment I've done recently, is send cards to CGC and getting a lot of 8.5. So as a geologist, do you think Raichu or Pichu cards across gens have more room for growth over the next 5 years? Do Raichu cards have growth for the next 5 years? Of course they do. I mean, that's an easy question. All we need, you want a Raichu card that's going to pop. We in Cosmic Eclipse, we did get the character card. We got Lieutenant Surge with Magnemite, but we need a Lieutenant Surge with Raichu straight out of like season 1 Pokemon. That's where it's at. And yes, that card will be a banger. And I will make sure it's a banger because I will buy every single card that's out there. Can you bring out a gynecologist on your next PTCG investment Q&A? Okay. As a geologist, should we sell our Brilliant Stars slab now or hold them until prices rise again? Will they rise again? I don't know. What cards are people grading from Brilliant Stars? I would say right now, if you have some high grade PSA 10s that somebody pushed through, probably, I'm guessing you had like $50 like lottery submissions and you got those cards back. At Brilliant Stars, if I had slabs, I would just sell those slabs right now at whatever the current market price is, take my profit and just buy those cards again raw. You probably buy them 2 or 3. Anytime you're buying raw cards, just make sure you're looking at whoever's selling those cards, that they're not selling graded cards also. Make sure that they're pretty much just strictly a raw collector. Now, can it be possible that they're running 2 eBay accounts? Yes, definitely. But you are more likely going to find people just selling raw cards who just don't want to send it away for grading. So if you have those cards already graded, you're probably going to get a premium right now. You could pick up, like, sell that one graded and pick up 2 to 3 raw, and then just keep doing that. And if you're constantly turning and burning graded cards in that sense, you're probably going to keep up with the market, because with the ebbs and flows of the market, whether the market's really hot or really low, you're just going to be selling throughout. So you're probably just going to keep doing pretty good that way. That would be my suggestion on that. Two-part question. Should I crack and resubmit my PSA 10 base 2 complete commons and energy set and resubmit them to CGC? And what type of rock would be best to crack the slabs? Yeah, please don't crack PSA 10s and submit them to CGC. But what type of rock? Anything higher than a 7 on the hardness scale. So quartz to 10 diamond. There you go. Do you think Shining Fates could follow a similar path price wise that Hidden Fates and Shining Legends took? So Hidden Fates, no, I mean the Hidden Fates price path is already way too different, right? Like Hidden Fates came out super in demand. I mean, Shining Fates came out super in demand. Hidden Fates prices rose, but even after Hidden Fates' most recent reprint, we saw prices only get down to like between $100 and $150. Like, and that's a pretty wide range when you think about it after a reprint, $100 to $150. And Shining Fates after the reprint, we saw them just go right back down to MSRP. So they're already playing out a lot differently. Now, the future of Shining Fates, like I would recommend to anybody, like if you got in on Shining Fates at a pretty low price, and low prices MSRP or lower for Shining Fates, yeah, I think if you sat on it for a little while, you would do fine. But is it going to do the same sort of returns that Hidden Fates and Shining Legends did? No. Hidden Fates being just that huge fan favorite set, like I mentioned earlier, and Shining Legends is just one of those weird sets that fell within this weird time of collecting where Shining Fates wasn't like heavily pursued by anybody. So it was slept on a little bit, didn't get like massive reprints because it was on the shelves for a while and just nobody wanted it. So the demand that was created within within Shining Legends just was so much different than what we're seeing for Shining Fates. But yeah, I mean, I like some Shining Fates. I wouldn't go crazy on it because when you think about Shining Fates right now, Shining Fates more likely than not is coming closer to the end of its lifespan being printed than it is getting closer. You know, like Shining Fates probably doesn't have any more, or maybe just one more reprint left before Shining Fates are just going to move on to the next bigger, better thing. And when you think about like Shining Fates, Hidden Fates, Shining Legends, you could go back to like Dragon Majesty or Dragon Vault, and you think about how those performed at the time and how they went up in the future. You know, Dragon Vault being a super small set, Dragon Majesty being, you know, not really in demand, but all this stuff started creeping up. And then I guess even if you want to throw in like Detective Pikachu, maybe like you look at like how did Detective Pikachu perform? Maybe that will be more similar to Shining Fates in the sense that nobody really wanted Detective Pikachu at the end, and we're getting to the end of Shining Fates where nobody really wants Shining Fates anymore either. So what did Detective Pikachu stuff do? You know, a lot of those like Detective Pikachu figure collection boxes, and then there's the Green Ninja GX box, you know, and then like the Charizard case file and all that stuff. Like, yeah, all that stuff has creeped up in price a little bit. So we might just see little slow, gradual increases in Shining Fates. Or maybe it'll be one of those situations where it goes out of print and then next thing you know, it's $79 ETB. So let's see. Any advice on how to locate and extract gems in mint variety between a rock and a hard place? You want to know what a rock and a hard place is? An 8.5. So a hard place is selling an 8 and a rock is a 9 because it's not going to sell. Which Pokemon gets you rock hard? Yeah, I like that one because I thought it was funny. Catch 'em all collectible said, should I invest everything in CGC perfect 10s today? For everybody besides Dan, I would say don't do that. But for Dan, I would say, Dan, definitely go for it. Basic Trainer said, given your background in geology, what's the long people really ran with the geology thing? I was kind of doing it in like a more sarcastic way. He said, given your background in geology, what's the long-term effects of this hobby on the environment? Is it too late to reverse bad investments with climate change, potentially beating you to the finish line before able to recover? Yeah, well, I'm a geologist, so I look at climate scales on a larger scale. So I look at Milankovitch cycles for last periods of, you know, glacial maxima, stuff like that. And, you know, I think climate change is a touchy subject right now because, you know, is it that long scale Milankovitch cycle, or is it all the carbon that's being pumped into the atmosphere causing a greenhouse effect? And then, you know, all the things that go on there. Maybe I would just recommend don't throw your cards outside because if you get any like, you know, high sulfur in the atmosphere, you're going to get acid rain and it's going to ruin your cards. There you go. That's the climate effects there for you. How accurate are the rock type based Pokemons in the shows and games? I'll tell you what, if you had Onyx could, drill oil wells for you, you do pretty good. All right. What's his name? Q8 from Compton. So like Compton, California. Hello, I own the only CGC 10 Hatterene V promo card. So like the Black Star promo one. Should I keep or sell? A little background. I have started collecting since February of last year and I've only submitted 60 cards using bulk tier of the CGC last year. Still learning about graded cards. Thank you. I don't know, man. I mean, that Hatterene V is probably one of the most common Black Star promos currently on the market. Like there's a ton of them out there. I'm saying maybe that card is worth $1. So I have no clue what that card sells in a pristine 10, or I'm guessing CGC pristine or perfect 10. But you said bulk, so I'm going to guess pristine 10, no subgrades. Dude, I don't know. Like if that's a 20, this is the way I look at it. If that's a $20 card in a CGC 10 and it's $1 card to buy raw and you graded that yourself and you'll probably never grade that card again in a 10. Like if it's a $20 card, like you did it February last year, so you spent between $7 to $8 a card to grade, so now you're into that card, let's call it for $9. It's going to cost you $4 to ship, so that brings you up to $13 after eBay fees, like $16. You're going to make $4 on that card. Like, I don't know. If you're going to make $4 on a CGC 10, I would say probably like don't do that. Just keep it in your personal collection because it's just something really rare you did. Now, is that a card I'm going to tell you to hold because I think it's going to be an investment? No, but if you can get like $100 for that card, and let's just say there's somebody crazy out there that just wants that card because it actually is a CGC 10, then go ahead, do that. What's your favorite fossil, Mr. Geologist? I think I always used to go with the Aerodactyl one when I was playing the games. Purple Energies, Bulbasaur, or MetaZoo for stonks. That's an easy one. I'd say the 10, 20, $30,000 Bulbasaur. Easy. If I live on a floodplain and my neighborhood is 82% impervious surface and it rains 2 inches per day for 5 days, how many CGC 8.5 base at ride shoes do I need to pay my $1,500 deduction, or should I start a Patreon? I love that question. Rabbit Squirrel, that's funny. Well, let's see. CGC 8.5 ride shoes, or let's call it $50. You got $1,500 deductible, so you got to sell 30 of those cards, or you just start a Patreon. Go ahead, start a Patreon. That's a hot thing to do. That's funny though. Kevin Clear. I always like Kevin's questions. Why didn't Pokemon buy the printing companies over a year ago? I mean, it seems like if it's good now, it should have been good then. A lot of people have been talking about like, the Pokemon printer acquisitions and stuff, the Millennial Print Group or whatever. But one thing I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about is in the last year's time, Pokemon has a ton of free cash flow on their books right now that they just really need to get rid of. So if they have this much extra cash on their books, I would say one of the best ways to do it is capital expenditures. And usually capital expenditures for a lot of businesses is like, new fleet vehicles or new buildings or new acquisitions. And I think in this case, because Pokemon did have just so much money, because when you think about how many cards they sold last year, it was just literally they could sell anything they printed, which is something that they hadn't experienced in decades. And I mean that decades, since like 99. So if they had all this extra money, it only made sense for them to try to burn some of that, like cash on their books and acquire Millennium Print Group. And it makes sense, right? Now, everybody asks a question of, okay, well, Pokemon acquired this new printing facility. Does this mean that they're just going to print Pokemon to the ground because now they have all these printer capabilities? Are they going to kind of push out everybody else? Because you got to keep in mind, Millennial Print Group just doesn't print Pokemon. They print a lot of other like TCGs and stuff too. So I don't think right away that will happen. So I think it will lead to a good question in like a year, 2, 3 year timeline if they do actually start to push out these other TCGs and only keep the printers for Pokemon, I think about it this way, like you could start to like break up modern into areas of like low print, meteor print, heavy print, and super heavy print. Like we're gonna, right now people talk about like modern as in print, out of print, or super modern, ultra modern, stuff like this. We might in the future talk about modern as in we're going to talk about modern and what were the printer capabilities like at that time, you know, like you would say the most recent sets like Brilliant Stars, Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, Battle Styles, Chill and Rain, like these have tons of cards printed for them. But when you go back not too far, like to the beginning of Sword and Shield base, you got Sword and Shield base, Rebel Clash, like those weren't super overprinted. Darkness Ablaze got a reprint, but then you go back like not too much further or before that, and like Cosmic Eclipse only really got one print, never got a reprint, with a lot of people, one, were asking for, and two, were saying it was going to happen, but it never happened. So we might start talking about modern in like how much of it was printed, which we'll never really know, all be speculations, but it's an awesome thought. Curtis James says, what's the best rock Pokemon? Probably Onyx. What card won't go up in 5 to 10 years? Just kidding. We all know it's everything, and it's not like demand will ever dip from where it is now. Sarcasm. Well, some cards will go up, some cards will go down. Some cards will stay stagnant. I think that's the thing that just I don't hear enough people talk about enough when it comes to Pokemon. People always talk about Pokemon doing two things: going up or going down. Very, very rarely do I ever hear people talking about Pokemon and the most dangerous thing, which is price stagnation. And price stagnation for a lot of this stuff, if the supply is so heavy on the market and there's just never demand, and the demand never gets eaten up, and there's just constantly supply on the market for certain cards forever. That will be what will really cause a lot of cards to just stagnate in price. And it'll be one of these weird times in Pokemon's history where prices, you always see usually a like gradual influx, or you see like, cards at release go way up and then they start crashing down and then they, work their way back up. We might see for the first time ever like real true flat lines for cards, like a lot of this super bulky stuff, like, the guy earlier mentioned about having, the only Black Star promo, CGC 10. Like, is that a good sell? I don't know. Like, that card's probably going to be stagnant forever. You're going to see those cards like in bulk forever. So who knows? But then there's going to be a lot of cards in 5 to 10 years that go crazy up, which is the funny thing about like the last video I did, the reaction video, where so I am going to do like another video that is going to actually like ruffle a lot of feathers, and that video is going to come out tomorrow, and I'm probably going to end up like losing a lot of subscribers from it, but it's going to be like a pretty trollish but funny type video. It'll be interesting. But like one of the things that a lot of people mentioned on that video was they kept talking about how the prices Pokenav were quoted. They were saying like, well, these prices today are, good buying points. And they kept like using that as justification. And the crazy thing was I never one time in my video like said that I thought that the prices those cards are selling at today weren't good buys. Like some of those cards, like in raw form today, I think are good buys. Like Amazing Rares, $1 to $2 a card. I think those cards can do good in the long term. Like you get bulk grading back to like $10. You buy a $1 card, grade it for 10 and sell it for 20. There's going to be a lot of money to be made there. But now, or it's maybe it crashes down to 15 or 20, or it just gets close to the price of grading. Like, but a card like a Amazing Rare can be stagnant for a long term. But I don't think that some of these cards out there are bad buys at all. And that's a crazy thing. Like people are just saying like, let's see how this video ages in, 5 to 10 years. And it's like, oh man, you poor guys, like you totally missed the point of my video, which was be very careful listening to like videos in the now, because you don't know how they're going to perform in a year or 2 years. But that just went over so many people's heads. But we're going to do another video talking kind of about it. and it's going to ruffle a lot of people's feathers. Let's see. Joe says, if a PSA 8 card is going for $55 and a CGC 8.5 card is going for $40, what is the better investment? The better investment is probably to pick that card up near mint raw for cheaper than both the 8 and 8.5 price. I'm going to guess that if you pick up a nice near mint copy, you're probably going to get an 8 at the minimum with PSA, and you get lucky, you get a 9. Now, super lucky, a 10, but probably more likely that 8 or 9. So you're going to pick that card up for a third of the price, wait for bulk grading, because those are bulk grading prices that you would have to wait. But because the question you asked here is, what card is the better investment? So investing means you're going to sit on that card and wait for it to appreciate in value. So if you're going to wait for it to appreciate in value, you pick that card up raw at your cheapest possible price and wait for bulk grading, because you're doing it as an investment. You're not doing it for a turn and burn type thing where you don't have a longer timeline. So that's what I would do. I just wait, pick that card up raw, because if your goal is PSA 8, like PSA 8s are not hard to get at all. If anything, you're probably, like I said, for a good near mint copy, probably more likely going to get a 9, assuming it's not just like, tons of heavy damage. But that's where you're going to have to just like learn grading skills and stuff like that. Oh, God. E unit. So marry one, kill one, fuck one. Twice baked Jake, CGC, Pokey Joe. Oh, my God. No, Mary, fuck, kill. That's a tough one, huh? There's no right answer for this, is there? Got to marry twice baked Jake, right? Got to kill CGC. That means I got to. There's only one to fuck, so. Oh God. The green just put a bunch of crossbones. Oh yeah, that's gonna live forever. Drew said, Geodude must feel bad you choose Raichu. Yep. Nostalgianomics. Here we go. This is what everybody's been waiting for. Top 5 Pokemon investments to buy now. I think that's pretty easy. I think it's always been easy. Top 5. Number 1. It's the same as it's always been. It's not, well, it changed a little bit in 2020, 2021 because prices exploded for everything. But number 1 Pokemon investment buy is good binder collections. That's easy. Simple. Like binder collections that are nice near mint, where you can get prices for the cheapest possible. Do it that way. Like that's a good way. Because buying binder collections for near mint, you're probably going to learn sets, you're going to learn cards. And again, it's all about price points on this stuff. You're going to get it low. Hopefully, if you buy a really good near mint binder collection, there will be like a few PSA 10s in there. I'm not saying that happens all the time, but it happens pretty often, where a couple of those cards will truly be 10s. And then usually those 10s will pull in such a premium that it will pay for everything else. And then you just slowly start burning through that binder, start grading everything, your 8s, your 9s, start selling those, grinding those, making a lot of money. And that's always been the way. That's my number 1 Pokemon investment. Is just get binders. And it got hard in 2020, 2021 because prices for raw cards really exploded. And I think they exploded because people thought they can do this. But buying binders, and you could grind. Like you don't have to go crazy. And now this is something that I haven't really thought about a lot, but it's becoming more and more apparent that there was so many people who got super hard into modern. I wouldn't be surprised if in the very near term you start to see some binder collections roll out with a ton of modern stuff. And you might be getting price points on some of these cards like $1. And when I'm talking like low $1 to $2 price points for like rainbow rares and alt arts and things that people just bindered up, because one of the things I always get amazed at when I look at some of these older binder collections, I'm like, man, that person must have opened up like 200 to 300 packs in order to complete this older vintage binder. And I'm like, this is such a super awesome, like impressive, binder collection. But now I look at some of these modern binders people have, something that I don't go after very heavily. But I'm looking at these binders. I'm like, wow, I'm impressed at vintage binders because somebody had to open like 200 to 300 packs. Some of these modern binders I'm looking at, I'm like, holy crap, this guy must have opened 1,000 packs because of how hard pull rates are and stuff, and seeing all the alternative arts and rainbow rares and stuff. Now, if you start to see those things trickle out on like, where people just over and leveraged, or they got beat up too much by Pokemon and they decide to leave, like that can be your a number one buy if you start to see this stuff. And everything is always about price points. It's never about like, what do I think things are going to go up to? It's always about what I think is my downside. And for like a rainbow rare trainer card at $1 to $2 a card, like I don't look at my downside being terrible. Now, it's all about like being patient, letting the market play itself through, let people like, one thing I found out about this hobby a long time ago is people just like whatever's new. They go, oh, look, there's something shining. They go after the new thing. So as long as you're patient, you could wait and you let card prices like do their thing. I think that would be my number one investment. Just be patient, start picking up binder collections, and people start liquidating this stuff for cheap. Probably number two, top 5 Pokemon investment to buy right now. I would say if you are familiar with Pokemon grading scales, which means like you've graded cards in the past and you've done things you should have already done in this hobby, like sent to PSA, sent to CGC, even though I don't recommend it now, but a couple months ago, I'd recommend it. Sorry for that bad recommendation, but I would say if you could pick up 8.5s or 9s right now, like there can be some real, true, good cross grading candidates in the future. Now, this is the big thing. There's probably going to be a lot of 8.5s that are not going to cross grade at all. And there'll probably be a lot of 9s that will not cross grade up to 10s like people think, or 9.5s. That's a weird thing about CGC right now. Is I would make the argument that for some of the older, and keep in mind, older CGC only being around since July of 2020, there are some older 8.5s that are way stronger than some of these new 9.5s I'm seeing CGC pump out. And I don't know if you guys saw that. One of my more recent community posts where it was a CGC perfect 10. You see this? Perfect 10. So Ice Rider Calyrex V Pokemon perfect 10. So that means 10. So 10 across, but mainly 10 surface. And do you see this print line right here? If you follow where this is the most egregious print line I've ever seen. Like when I saw this card from far away, I saw that. And then I was like, there's no way. There's no way they gave this a surface 10. But yet my pack fresh Skyridge cards got surfaces of 8.5. Keep in mind, these are non-hollow. Wizard of the Coast Skyridge, one of being the like highest print quality sets they had. I was getting surfaces of 8.5. But this card got a freaking 10 on surface with, I mean, that looks like somebody freaking jagged it. It's crazy. Where was I? Oh, this is my community. I love this one. This is one of my favorite ones. The CGC pop report make you angry? See, that's the thing about CGC. They always make me angry. So what was I on? So I was at 2 things for investing. I don't know. Probably my other 3 would just be like, learn grading scales, like I already said. Be realistic about what your expectations are. Like, understand that things could flatline. And then I don't know what my 5th is. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I kind of copped out on that. I don't like giving investment advice. Let's see. What's the chat saying? Anything good? Sorry, I haven't pulled up the chat. Thanks for the heads up. So I see a bunch of familiar names in here. See Drew, Thrifty TCG. She had a funny comment on my last video. Dan Catch'em-all. I see Basic Trainer. Good to see all you guys. But yeah, I just wanted to do this video pretty short. Just answer that. It's going to be a quicker video, mainly just to test out this microphone and to kind of tell you guys that tomorrow's video is probably going to be pretty spicy. So be prepared for it. And yeah. So other than that, guys, appreciate every one of you guys for tuning in. For those of you guys that chat a little bit in the chat. I appreciate it.